All right, and I think we are live. Hello, and welcome back to another TSN Armada online broadcast. I just seem to be hopping from one to the next at the minute, so it's been pretty much back to back. As you may or may not know, we hosted a mission scripting competition earlier in the week. We asked for missions from the Artemis community, and then we got together a TSN crew to test them out. We received 3 entries in total, so we gathered a team together of officers from the TSN RP community, some very experienced players, or at least some of them are.
Define experience.
Zorian piping in there. So some very experienced players who have had a go at playing together on a ship before, and we played through each of them, and then we shared our opinions before coming to a decision on which one we thought was the winning script. I think we did come to a decision, didn't we, guys?
Nope.
Well, I did. I don't know if any of you agree.
Yes, we did.
That's largely irrelevant to me.
All right,
it was
so
pretty hard. It was pretty hard. They were all of them had very good elements and interests and different angles to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, Xavier.
So with me, if you've not already heard them yet, I have Captain Fish Evans. He's a captain in the TSN RP community. He's worked himself all the way up from the rank of cadet over years and years, so a very experienced player. You were the captain on our voyages on these mission scripts, weren't you, Fish?
I was indeed. Or cat herder in chief, as the case may be.
Cat herder in chief is what he's going for. We have Lieutenant Zanster. Lieutenant Zanster, what role did you take when we were running these scripts?
Omnipotent weapons officer.
Okay, so he was on the weapons. We had Kristen. Kristen, what role did you take?
Whoa, right.
Acting Ensign Kristen. Sorry, he earned that rank.
Thank you very much.
He had to earn that rank. Lieutenant Zanster had to earn that rank as well. Go on, Kristen. Acting Ensign Kristen.
Thank you very much. I was in engineering, of course.
And we also have Acting Ensign Zorian, who earned his rank just as much as Kristen did, but isn't complaining half as much. Zorian, what position did you play?
Shut up. I was the science officer.
Science officer. I took the communications console, and we also had Ensign Raiden, who took the helm console.
Ensign?
Is he Lieutenant Junior now?
Yeah.
Evans, why are my reports not up to date?
I was going to mention that. Somebody's taken away my access to the officer database.
Also, did everybody just witness that clear mark of a senior officer who went, "Oh, I got something wrong. Who's the nearest person I can blame?"
How do you think I got the rank of fleet captain? Come on. All right, so we had Raiden, who was our helm officer as well. Sadly, Raiden can't make it. He's got other commitments. We're hoping to have the whole team together, but he did share his thoughts and opinions with us. We played through each script, like I say, and then we had a time to sit down together afterwards and deliberate. When we were playing the missions and looking at the scripts and when we were discussing them, we talked about them from each point of view that we played, and so for example, myself, I played comms, and I played comms on all 3 missions, so we could get a fair comparison. But some of the overall things that we were looking at was the challenge of the mission. So we were thinking about, who is this mission pitched at? What would it be like for crews at different levels of experience playing through those missions? And it was interesting because I think we had a whole range of missions, of ones that would do for a crew that's played the game a few times, one that would do for a crew that was very experienced and into the role play, and one that was very much a great introductory one for new crews, didn't we? That's kind of the conclusions that we came up to, but
absolutely.
More on that later. We considered the pace of the mission, how it kept moving along, whether it was engaging for each of the roles and the kind of action that each of the roles was involved in. The involvement of the officers linked very much to the pacing. So, do all the officers on the bridge feel like that their role was valued in the mission, which is possibly one of the hardest things to do, I think, when you're writing a mission script, is considering every single person and what they may or may not be doing in their experience through it. The story, whether there was a really clear story, whether there was an engaging story for the crew, whether that mission could be replayed and it would be as enjoyable if you replayed that mission, as well as the ending of the mission. Did it come to a satisfying conclusion at the end? Did we say that was a brilliant mission, really enjoyed that, or did it just kind of end abruptly and go, well, was there a little bit more than that? So just a brief warning before we move on, there are going to be some spoilers in this, so if you don't want to, we're going to lose half our audience here, I bet. So we are going to talk about the missions, we're going to talk about how it played out, and we'll be posting those missions for you guys to play later. If you are listening and the rest of your crew don't know, then just keep it secret. If you don't want to know, then you can watch this back afterwards once you've played through the mission, and we've just actually lost a viewer from that. Really didn't think that through.
Do it again.
It was me. I don't want to know how it ends.
Yeah. So if you've missed that warning, I'm not repeating it because I'm not losing more listeners. It's Kristen that's keeping our listener count up by having at least 4 different Internet Explorer windows open with the views on. Thank you very much.
Internet Explorer? What am I, an animal? Out here with your Internet Explorer. Good lord.
All right, so shall we get into it, guys?
Yeah, please.
Before you get yourself in trouble again.
Just saying, like, why aren't you using Chrome? Like,
Oh.
yeah, it's resource heavy, but
okay, this is a whole other rabbit hole. This Chrome, Firefox, IE.
I mean, it's not a very deep one. It's really simple. Use Chrome. Like...
Okay.
Save it for the Kralians. Come on.
So, like I say, we had 3 missions submitted. The first one that we played through was submitted by Darren. We had Darren on one of the live broadcasts yesterday, and he actually is involved in writing some of the mission scripts for Artemis Armada. And this mission script that he submitted, I think we... sorry, I'm just looking at some pings coming up. You might hear the pings in the background. The one that he submitted, I think, was going to feature at Artemis Armada 5 and might end up at Armada 6, but it's going to be put out there. Shall we crack on and start talking about what we thought about it? Somebody else who wants to chime in now?
Go on, Fish.
All right, so, well, start with the mission title. It was the Easter egg hunt by Darian, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was a lovely little mission, very much aimed at family, a sort of relaxed environment, with perhaps younger people on the crew as well. And basically it took the form of Easter egg hunt. We had to pick up 13 Easter eggs, but each one had a little twist to how we were had to acquire it. So there was basically a little riddle and a decoding to do it. It was a lovely mission. There was always something to do, and well, I enjoyed it a fair bit.
So, as captain on the ship with that mission, what did you find yourself doing to guide the crew?
I just had to keep pushing us towards the next objective and thinking about where we're going and what the implications might be when we reach to each destination to collect the next egg, or case may be deliver something or work out how exactly I was going to get this ship's computer to hard reset and so on.
So you were the brains behind the mission, basically. So
I wouldn't say brains, but I was pushing things along.
Yeah. Yes, I know there was a couple of points, wasn't there, where there was like having to get it from a monster, and you were considering, as the captain, you were then saying, oh well, I think if we're going to get it from the monster, then we best attack it from this angle, or think about how we're going to approach it here and get in close before we start shooting.
Yes, exactly that sort of thing.
How did you find it on weapons?
I will say that I very much enjoyed the mission, but there was not a whole lot to do for weapons. The first couple of eggs in numerical sequence, there just wasn't much to do for weapons. But then eventually, there were some puzzles that required weapons to shoot some things. So overall, I thought it was pretty good. It's particularly memorable because it's different than a lot of the other typical Artemis games that you might play. So it's definitely different.
So very much the
Very
theme
true.
for you that made it interesting and engaging.
Yes, it's very creatively done. I appreciate the different ways that you had to solve the different puzzles. Something slightly different every time.
So I think, yeah, in terms of solving the puzzle, that I think that kind of drew the crew together, didn't it? With looking at the riddles and the puzzles and considering how to do it.
Yeah, I will say the captain might have had a difficult time because everybody was pitching in their own solutions about how to get the next thing, and the captain should say, all right, I got all that. We're going to go through this one first," that kind of thing.
So very much a crew coordination mission.
Yes.
Kristen, what were your thoughts from your point of view?
Well, yeah, echoing a little bit of what Zanster said there. It's and what Fish said. It's definitely aimed at perhaps a younger audience, or maybe perhaps towards a crew who's very new to Artemis. And a lot of the solutions to the puzzles were actually teaching fundamentals of how the game worked, which I think was a really cool thing to do. From an engineering perspective, there was very, very little to do, at least for an engineer with like any modicum of experience. I did get a little bit of a feeling that there was quite obviously a drive to make sure that two of the most often neglected stations, which is science and comms, had something to do. That maybe the person putting it together forgot about engineering a little, but that wasn't such a huge problem because, as Sansta said, there were a lot of puzzles going on, and having slightly less to do in engineering freed me up to chuck in a few suggestions, start thinking about how the puzzle should be solved rather than having to go, everything's on fire, fix the things that are on fire. But no, it was a good little game. Definitely, I'd say a fantastic experience for newer players or family units. But yeah, definitely not the norm for Artemis missions. And in fact, I'd like to see missions going forward that have a little bit more of a puzzle basis, where there are things you have to figure out rather than, hello, I'm here. Here are my guns. You are now dead. I am victorious. Yeah, but overall, I rate it quite highly. It was well put together. A couple of bugs, but nothing game breaking, and overall an enjoyable experience.
And sorry, and Kristen
Yeah.
mentioning there about it being very much focused on science and comms. You were in the science role. How did
Yeah.
you find it from your point of view then? Were you constantly engaged?
So I actually had the console open as well to actually see the riddles, but from what I experienced, I had quite a bit to do. Whether it was to tell the hidden in the range through Helm, or search the map for new contacts, like the piranhas, I think were. No, that was yeah, I think it was piranhas. And Egg 6 was actually quite fun to figure out, because it was constantly moving around the map, so we actually had to sneak up on it. Basically, from science perspective, it was quite refreshing as well, because usually on science, what I usually focus on is scanning the opponents, and this time there wasn't a lot of it, which also freed me up to focus on the riddles a bit more.
That was interesting. Real engagement from science, being able to track where the objectives were. And then obviously on comms as well, there weren't. I think there was only like 2 comms messages came through, and it was the set of riddles. And I know I was constantly having to. There may have been a couple more going in there, but it was this set of riddles that I constantly had to go and scroll back to, and then I was offering up like, oh, riddle number 2. So Fish kept saying, right, what's our next riddle? We need to start thinking about that. And I'd be, riddle number 2 is this. And in terms of the gameplay elements, I know on weapons and on helm and on engineering, you were spending a lot more time communicating outside of your role, talking about the riddles, how we could solve them, what approach we'd need, keeping an eye a little bit on the science as well, and helping out with, oh, well, why don't we go over there and do this? And I know talking to Raiden with the helmet, it was really good how it kind of developed your helm skills and gave you that introduction to how to control the ship. So there was one in a minefield, wasn't there? And there was no visible way of getting into the minefield without setting the mine off, unless you are on a certain TSN crew and warp 4 all the way through it. So from that we were figuring out, right, we could either go really high speed and try and set the mines off and not blow up, or we can change the plane of the actual ship so it got us used to moving that 3D version. So adding on to that idea of it was a great mission for new crews coming to Artemis for the first time, learning the things, teaching. I could imagine like Armada having it set up and going, hey, come along, have a go, and then a couple of people teaching them, saying, yeah, this is how you would scan a target in science. In comms, you need to read that message. You're the captain, you need to tell us what to do. Which one do you want to go for next? And that kind of teaching people the coordination and getting the conversation going backwards and forwards.
Indeed.
So overall, I think we all agreed that it was a really good, strong theme. It was, the level of challenge was pitched at the newer player. Well, let's have a look. I'm just going to check back on my notes here. It involved all officers, not necessarily on their role, but in working out the riddles and figuring out how to approach them. There wasn't really any kind of story element driving it. It was more of a, there's an Easter egg hunt and you've got to finish it. So it was a theme really that overrode the story.
It was a theme or challenge mission, wasn't it?
Yeah, we did talk a little bit about replayability, didn't we? And how more experienced crews could get replayability out of it. Anybody want to chime in there with what the thoughts that we come up with?
I think the major part of replayability we came up with is mostly speedrunning. Like we had races, we can try to get the fastest time on this map, try to figure out the fastest route, and see who can do it fastest.
So definitely a challenge for one of those people that have a need for speed.
Basically, the answer. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could have a couple of stabs at it. I mean, it's definitely not infinite replayability, but you know, what mission will ever give you that? But yeah, for people who are down to time trial, yeah, and it breeds a little bit of healthy competition. Yeah, it's a nice little event, and you could possibly get more replayability out of it. You know, just with little tweak. Like it wouldn't take a lot to update that seasonally, and just like every Easter or what have you, make some tweaks, make some changes, and all of a sudden, although it's the same mission, the answers to the puzzles are slightly different, and yeah, you can play it all over again. But as it is, you can get a couple of games out of it, certainly.
One last point before we move on to the next one is I did crack up in the actual script itself and have a look in the background, and it was the things in there. When you're playing it, you don't always appreciate the complexity of the script. There was the jump points, for example, wasn't there, where you jump from one point to the next when you went into it, and you had to do that. You had to spell, was it egg?
It was egg, yes.
And that little riddle was an interesting one, and it was just like spell egg, and how do you do that? And I'm not going to say how to do it, but yeah, the mechanics behind. I'm not going to, not spelling egg. how you solve the riddle. Come on. I'm not going to tell you what to do to solve the
But you
riddle.
already said it.
This just in, Fleet Captain is dyslexic.
Come on, it's double EG. Everybody
Fleet
knows
Captain,
that.
Fleet Captain demoted.
Alright.
Fish Evans take his place.
So yeah, there was riddles like that you had to figure out how it would work with the layout of the map, and then there was some nice complex ideas like creatures that would drop eggs and how you get them from them. And in the mission script itself, if you look at the complexity of that, to be able to add all those different elements in takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, to be honest. So the mission script in the background was really well put together, and like you say, I think in any mission script you end up with one or two bugs, but because it ran so smoothly, I can't recall any specific bugs.
Egg 5, I think,
Yeah,
appeared
egg
twice for some reason.
Yeah, we got a double egg.
Yeah, so we had a bonus egg in that one. But
But the knock-on effect that had was that it still counted towards our egg count. So although we ended up with like 13 or 14 eggs, like one over the limit, whatever it was, it ended the program, but it didn't give us our correct victory screen because it got a little confused, I believe.
yeah. So
Quite possible the egg was mislabeled. That caused that.
yeah.
It wasn't a big deal. We still won.
No, absolutely, yeah.
And the great thing was it didn't break the script. We still, I mean, we got to egg 5 and did that. It was like, oh, is this going to cause problems later on in the script? So we played through to the end, and it still ended up at the end of it without any other problems. Without, I've known mission scripts where you start them up, you get part way through, and then the whole game crashes because the mission script breaks it. That's usually my mission script.
Yeah, well, that was a nice, fun half-hour jaunt where we got to solve some puzzles.
Yeah.
Occasionally go what, and then figure it out. It was good.
Right. So, shall we move on to the next one? These were entered by the next two actually. Were entered by Jamie and Ryan McMullen, the McMullen clan. I'm going to go with that. They entered 2 scripts. I think one was written. Now then, was it written by Jamie or Ryan? I'm trying to figure out which one it was.
The rescue mission, I believe, was written by the younger.
The younger. McMullen the younger. Okay, so the rescue mission was McMullen the younger, and the other mission, Nearby Confrontations 3, which I must say I absolutely love the title. Based on having played the mission, the title was brilliant. Was written by McMullen the Elder. So let's have a talk about Rescue Team first. Anybody want to give us the outline of what the Rescue Team mission was?
So a Zimni ship had gone missing whilst researching a black hole, and we had to go and locate it, rescue it, and in the end fight off a Scarwan which was causing a little bit of havoc in the area. It was again a lovely.
That's the nearby confrontations.
Just to chime in here, I've managed to find it now. The rescue team was written by Jamie McMullen. That's the younger. Jamie McMullen the younger.
Conveniently starts with J for junior.
Yep. So overall, it was again a lovely little mission, very enjoyable. There was some amusing messages from communications, which I'll let Xavier go through in a second. My role as captain there was again just making sure that we were making the reasonable decisions as we went along. It was a tense in a few sections. It was at one point it felt like we were being set up for an ambush, which didn't happen, only to happen a little bit later on. which was a nice little pacing element. I think I've got nothing particularly more to say, but really enjoyed it.
There was definite quirks on comms. I really enjoyed the comms. There was a Zimni ship as part of the mission, wasn't there? And there was transmissions from the Zimni ship, and they were all written in English, but there were some really very clever plays on words. So, for example, they send out a Mayday message, but instead of Mayday, Mayday, being Zimni and not maybe knowing English as well, they instead sent June Day, which provided that little bit of extra entertainment and enjoyment from the mission. And there was other little bits that they'd mixed up as well, other little comms messages where they'd said something. I think there was one about being made better. It was thank you for better making us, or something like that. So like those little bits of mix up and those quirks, I think added a little bit more.
Yeah, I
fun
definitely
to it, definitely. Go on.
I definitely think the lighter touches and the attention detail here are what made this mission stand out. Because if you look at it from a story perspective, it's nothing super groundbreaking. Ship's gone missing, go find the ship. But yeah, all the little details, all the little touches are really what made it different from the bog standard kind of mission you would see. And that is very, very evident in what the scriptwriter has done.
Yeah, I think there was some really clever bits of coding as well. With there was some damage dealt out by the black hole and things like that. I thought those were really clever ideas to fit in there.
It made it
Yes.
feel more realistic when it comes to black holes. So because we approached it, we started to take internal damage, which was nice.
Right.
Yes,
And
it certainly
you
gave me
didn't have
something
to
to
get
do.
yeah, you didn't have to get all the way into the black hole before you started taking damage. That radius of effect was much larger than your quote-unquote standard black hole.
Yeah,
To me, that was the best part.
Raiden kind of took an approach that would normally not be a problem, and then all of a sudden I had some nodes down and some warning lights. And again, that's a nice little thing that we got a GM message that popped up and just went, "Hey, by the way, you're taking damage for this reason. This black hole's a bit weird, and it's sending out, it's causing your systems to misalign, and it's breaking stuff." So it wasn't just the entirety of the inside of my ship is now red for no reason. It was very clear, very apparent, and gave us something to talk about, certainly.
I know. In our discussions, one thing that we talked about is the way that you inform your players about what's going on. It definitely had those elements. At every point, we knew why that thing was happening, or we could work out why that thing was happening nice and easily, and it kept it going along for us. Zancy, you made quite a few comments about weapons as well. You like weapons on this one, didn't you?
Well, compared to the previous one, weapons got to do a lot more. We got to shoot piranhas and shoot Scrans, do a whole bunch of things. So, weapons officer does appreciate the extra things to do. But I gotta say a couple other things. There was a point in the mission where we were getting a whole bunch of pop-up missions, something about warp and impulse drives disengaged during docking, docked with Zikuhan or whatever. It was streaming these, and that was a little disconcerting. The only other thing I would say is there was a case where we were able to get the Skarayan to surrender. And when the Skarayan surrenders, he slowly goes off the map. And I think that was part of the victory condition, and it took a long time for him to get off the map. And then finally it recognized the condition that it was gone, and the script moved on to the next point. I will echo what Fish said earlier. It was a very good story. It was cohesive. It made a lot of sense. And essentially everything catered to the story, tied into the story. I thought that was very well done.
Yeah, talking about those, like you say, there were one or two just minor bugs, and I say minor bugs because I went and took the liberty of opening the code and having a look, and it was literally one variable for the messages that I put in, and that would fix the bug, and one slight tweak I think to the way that it recorded surrendered enemies, and that would fix it. So like two tiny little things, and that would have been a really well. That it was a really smooth mission to play through and a really enjoyable mission to play through.
The issues we had were by no means game breaking at all. They're just a little
No, these were minor. Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
Yes, so just from a science perspective, again, there was a lot to do this time, something which I don't see in a lot of TSN games. There were a lot of anomalies, which is fun because, something new. Other than that, the mission itself was very fun. If we're focusing on the story and the mission itself, it was great. Again, replayability, I think the best way to kind of replay it is, again, try to do it as fast as possible. It's not as close in potential to the first mission in that sense, but
Yeah, this is definitely one of those. If you play it from start to finish, you get that story and you get that experience. But going back through it, you're going to get the same story and same experience, which is it means that when you sit down and play that mission, it's going to be fun and interesting and fresh the first time. And I think that's what's important. It'd be a great one actually to add to like an arsenal of missions that you would take to a friend's house or something. In terms of the challenge, going back to like the things that we're looking at in particular, we thought this one was definitely more challenging than the first one, didn't we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd put it at a kind of intermediate level. You've flown a couple of times, or even if you're flying with a new crew where everybody knows their positions and everybody knows what they're about, but it doesn't necessarily take a crew that's like super tight knit and communicate really, really well. Obviously, that will help you, but it's not impossible to do if you're kind of like a new crew.
I think I think if you are players that have met a couple of times, you know the game, you know how to operate the ship and work the ship, even at a basic level, how to fly, how to shoot things down, how to get your comms messages and work together. It'd definitely be an enjoyable mission. I mean, we are a very experienced crew and we really enjoyed playing through it. It gave us enough challenges, it gave us enough interest and engagement, and like those extra bits thrown in of all the systems are now damaged, let's get them repaired because otherwise we're vulnerable, still gave us that enjoyment and excitement.
I think you can like the telling factor, at least for the TSN, for whether or not a mission is engaging or challenging, or it has enough to grab and keep your focus, is the out of character comms stops. Like the chat drops, and all of a sudden it's I think maybe this ship over here is suspicious. We need to navigate this asteroid field carefully. And we definitely got that in this mission. Like all kind of non-bridge related chatter just cut off, and all of a sudden it was task at hand. Which is always a good sign.
Right, I think we're going to have to move on. We're starting to run out of time, and we've got one more mission to talk about. So I apologise to whoever's doing the Atlantis campaign. We may overrun by a few minutes. So the last one was written. Are you running it, Zanster?
I am indeed.
All right. Okay.
We can't
so
possibly be late.
If we overrun it, doesn't matter. Zanster's running it anyway, so he'll be there when he's there. The third mission that we played through was Nearby Confrontations 3. It had a fantastic theme to it. The very first thing that you greeted with was the description text. Now, the other missions did have description text, but this description text was very direct. Right, if you're going to play this mission, you need this type of ship with this type of drive to really enjoy this script, to get the most out of it. And then you launched the mission, and it was a much more complex mission in the way that it was put together. And I know a couple of you really enjoyed this one. Zanstra, I see lots of notes there that we put down about weapons. Do you want to kick us off with that one?
Sure, we got to shoot lots of stuff.
And that's Zansta's input. Thank you very much, Zansta. Go on.
Speaking of jump,
I will say that that I think this is the first mission that we died on the first time we did it. So we
yeah,
we started right away and then jumped into somewhere and immediately died.
I thought we agreed not to tell anybody that. Jeez.
Well, we don't often pilot jump ships.
yeah. Speaking of jump ships,
Now
I
you're just
hate
making
those
excuses. I
type of
don't like that.
ships.
So, yeah, we
Absolute nightmare.
we were destroyed
yeah.
within about 5 minutes, I think, weren't we?
Yeah, so something that's but that did give us some insight into how the script is written, because when we started back up, the places that were providing information were different the second time around, which tells me that the scriptwriter wrote it with replayability in mind. So the second time you play it, you can't solve the puzzle exactly the same way you did the first time you might have tried to play it.
I mean, they were definitely similar, but there was enough variance there to make it slightly different.
Yes.
But basically, there was once again a large black hole, inconveniently placed, and surrounded by 5 research stations, all of whom were hostile.
Yep.
And we had to make friends with them through various means,
Power of friendships and whales.
which I wasn't going to go into, but there we go.
I mean, there was one point where we panicked because a load of things that you needed to interact with fell into a black hole. And we're like, oh, is that just going to ruin the mission script? But actually, I think that had been planned for, and we managed to get through that and get around it by finding other things that have respawned so that you could still interact with them.
And again, it's that level of attention to detail where the scripter has sat and they've thought about this, like, oh, they need to interact with this. Well, it's a destroyable entity. What happens if it gets destroyed? Well, I'll have to have it respawn in. And there were lots of little quirks that I really enjoyed. Like there was one element. There's a pickup that a particular enemy drops, and it's not clear what you need to use it for. For me personally, at least until we got to the end of the session, and it wasn't. We were about halfway through our discussion on this particular script where I know what we need to use that for now. So yeah, it's very clever. It's very well thought through. There's some excellent stuff for engineering. There's some really cool stuff that, again, I won't go into too much detail about, but there's some real nice finesse jobs you have to do with engineering that takes brain power, certainly that I don't possess. I think it was a group effort on that bit.
Oh yeah, towards the end there was a section where Helm, Engineering, Communications all had to coordinate to do a relatively difficult task in a short space of time. Which I really enjoyed.
It was really tricky, and from a comms point of view, there was lots for me to do as comms. It made use of the comms buttons really well, to be able to pick up things that you needed, being able to put out things that you needed. It was that interaction of made the comms screen vital. You could not do that mission without a comms officer who was actually on the ball and looking.
And each station was being given their own GM messages that were popping up, which I thought was a really nice touch, because it means if you're not communicating, you're not going to solve anything, which was cool. Now,
yeah, I know the last little bit of the puzzle came from engineering, didn't it? And up until that point, we were kind of like, well, what's going on? What's going on? And then Kristen woke up and told us what it was.
Yep.
We managed to solve the puzzle.
Excuse me.
To be fair,
I said that.
to be fair, I made a suggestion that was nearly right, and then Zorian went no, and amended it slightly. I was doing the right thing on the wrong setting.
So it was Zorian that solved the puzzle. Yeah,
it was definitely a group effort.
Yeah.
So, one of my only bugbears with this mission. Now, it had been a long day of testing and we were very tired, but it definitely felt like somebody had planned this and they'd gone, well, this is a really cool puzzle setup. It's, there's lots to do. There's lots of involvement from all the different things, but I don't want to make it too easy for them. So I don't really want to give them too many clues. And so everything was just a very, very light touch. And it meant that if for whatever reason you missed clue, which to be fair would be hard because the messages kept popping up, or if that one clue wasn't really doing it for you, you were kind of left adrift. And we did find ourselves a couple of times just adrift.
Yeah, not sure what to do. We ended up deciding to go on to something else and coming back to it. But yeah, it was. We got stumped a few times.
And some minor tweaks to it, like putting in some timers that, if they're going on too long, would throw them a hint or something like that. I don't know how you might build that into the script, but those little bits just to help the players move along, give them. It's always interesting writing a script because you like, I don't want to give it all away to the players, but at the same time you give little bits of information and players find that there's almost not enough. So more, I always find is better. I always think, from my own personal point of view.
A couple little quirks. There was a point where there was a passel of whales being continually spawned and respawned, and there was one particular whale that had to be selected by the weapons officer. It was difficult to do amongst all of those whales.
Because
the nebula didn't help as well, because
the other thing is there were a stream of messages coming up on pop-ups. That's sometimes difficult if the messages are multi-line because they scroll off so fast. Sometimes they're difficult to read and decipher. I was thinking maybe they could go to comms, maybe they could be shorter. I'm not sure how to solve that. I'm just saying. I struggled with that, but I very much like the puzzles.
So going back briefly to a couple of things, the challenge there, you definitely need an experienced crew for this. I say an experienced crew, probably the same level of experience that you get for the rescue team mission. Zanster's just headed out there to be able to start organising the Atlantis campaign. I think either that or he's dropped out. So you'd need a crew that are confident already with operating a ship and working together. And then, there he is. I thought you'd headed off to start sorting the Atlantis campaign.
I did a little bit of delegation. Hopefully it'll be more ready when I get there.
All right. The pace slowed a little bit, but I think that was down to us missing some of the messages or getting a little bit stuck up on the clues. But it did involve everybody all the way through it, and the story I thought was excellent. The title of it and what you end up doing at the end was really good. So the ending was quite nice. Talking about the ending very briefly. After looking at the code and after talking to the person who scripted it, there were 3 different endings, 3 different outcomes based on the end event that happened, which I thought was added that extra replayability.
Absolutely.
So,
I know what one of those I know what 2 of those endings are because we did one and I figured out the other.
But I think we're gonna have to draw it to.
You're trying
close.
so hard not to spoil it. I'm sure whoever's listening to this will appreciate that.
It's people are going to have the opportunity to play this, and I think they should. I think they should play all 3. I think a tremendous amount of effort has gone into all of them, and not only do they deserve kudos for that, but people should be able to go check them out, forge their own opinions, and tell us that we were wrong in whatever decision we make.
Right. Speaking of which, we probably ought to present that decision so we can.
So I think overall we deliberated all these 3 and we concluded. Which one were we going for, guys?
I think from a technical point of view and a enjoyment point of view from a very experienced person who's played Artemis for years and years, the one I enjoyed personally the most was Nearby Confrontations 3. The other 2, excellent missions. I would, again, really enjoy them. but because I'm a bit more experienced, I didn't get quite the same enjoyment out of them, simply because of that.
Yeah, I think we all sat down and agreed that that third script, the nearby confrontations, was as our favourite, wasn't it?
Whenever
Yes.
what
Go on, sorry.
was it in the 2/3 of the meeting I missed?
That's entirely possible. Would you like to disagree with what we've said?
Yes, I mean mechanics wise, yeah, the nearby confrontations 3 certainly bested everything else except the jump ship, which scared me so much because it was 2 a.m. and I was not prepared for it.
so I think our overall consensus was the winner of our mission scripting competition was Nearby Confrontations 3. I must admit though, Fleet Captain's prerogative here. My personal pick was the rescue team. I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was nice, short, succinct. It kept the pace. So Fleet Captain's recommendation, rescue team. But overall, judges have decided that the Nearby Confrontations team, Confrontations 3, was our winning script for our mission scripting competition.
I mean, story wise, I prefer the rescue Operation 3 because it can be more easily
Sorry. We've made the decision. Stop it.
It's over.
All right.
It's over, Anakin.
Yeah, so next time we do
Alright.
this, we need more submissions.
Yes.
That's it.
Make it harder for us.
Oh yes,
But,
Make
yes.
it harder.
Congratulations.
No,
to
that's
our
not the
winner.
reason. We just want to be able to play some more missions.
Yeah, we don't want to have to script them. Congratulations to our winner, though, and of course to all of our entrants. Well done for all your hard work, and
Yes.
thank you for submitting those.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
we enjoyed every single one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take each mission script. I'll post them up with full credits to the people who wrote them. Jamie and Ryan McMullen and to Darren as well. I'll put them on the mission scripting competition forum post that we had, and I'll link it in Discord and everything so that you guys can go and grab them and download them. And we might also put them on our own website so that you can grab them from there. We're going to move on now because we need to get on with the next part of the Atlantis campaign. I'm going to set up so that I can stream what's going on there. Thank you very much for joining us on the live stream. Those people have been listening in. It's been fairly consistent in terms of the number of viewers, and if you're listening afterwards as well, hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed our discussions and our deliberations, and we'll finish it there, guys. Say bye.
Bye, byes.
Bye.
And Zanston did a really good job of just leaving the channel. All right.
What a pro.
Thanks very much, guys. See you next time.
See you later.
Bye-bye.